I didn't come up with that one myself. But hey, I'm going to take a different twist on this because I'm listening to everybody. And I had this speech I was going to come here and give. I thought, you know what? And then I started listening to everybody, and all these thoughts started going through my head. It was really interesting. Most of the stuff I hear out there are people like TC and Michael Swirling and David. You all had mentors, right? You all had somebody you looked up to or listened to. Something got inside your head that made you think, what wants to make me be an entrepreneur, right? What drives you as an entrepreneur? And Matthew asked me this a couple weeks ago, and I've been asked it several times, but I thought to myself, I've never really sat down and pondered it. It was interesting to listen to Sarah that she drifted down the river and thought about how she was going to come up with this explanation of what it is. I spent quite a bit of time, and I actually walked out there in East Cliff, and it's a wonderful neighborhood, and I thought, what is it that drives me, right? When did I want to become an entrepreneur? Why did I want to become an entrepreneur? And I think it all came back to, I had a mentor myself, my father. My father and my mother, they were just wonderful people. They both owned their own businesses. My father was in real estate, development, property management. My mother did interior decorating. They had careers before that. My mother was a mother. If anybody's ever a mother, you know how that is. She was very involved in our lives, very involved with the school, PTA, president, run all this stuff. My dad was the coach of my little league team. Everything was just, it was incredible. An incredible experience being a child because they were very positive, always. Whatever you want to do, go do it. Go out there, strike yourself, in the community, and be something. Be whatever you want. I don't care what you want to be. You want to go, be a garbage delivery guy. Go do it. You want to go own a business. Go do it, but do it with pride. And I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, Dad, that's really interesting." And he said, "Yeah. Leaders are great people if you want to be one of those, but if you're going to be a leader with a servant's heart. Give back, like what TC was saying. Do something for your community, do something for your people, do something for the up-and-coming children that are going to be part of our, are going to be leading us soon when we're too old and gumming our food and wondering how things could get any worse politically. They're going to be there running it for us." But it all started with me, David Adams, with a paper route. I was 11 years old, 2 weeks before my 12th birthday, and this opportunity came up with a paper guy quit in my neighborhood, about the fifth one we went through, because I used to live in hills. You see, I didn't grow up in Pleasure Point. I grew up in Palo Alto, Menlo Park, up in the hills. Same mountain range, just about 40 miles up. 40 miles up. So in any event, my paper route was hard. It was all on hills. But my dad said, hey, own it. If you're going to do it, own it and be good at it. I said, all right, I'm going to do this. So it was an afternoon paper route, and I would ride along that paper route every day. And I lived on this one street, and I learned all these wonderful things about business, right? My dad was great with math, and he'd always teach me math. And one of the things was I had 52 people that I had to deliver papers to, but I had to collect money every month from 20 of them. And so he goes, well, what is that, John? What is that as a percentage? I don't know, Dad. I just want my money. And he said, well, hey, John, let's figure that out. So we figured it out. And I go, so 38% of my people, I have to go collect money from. I have to go knock on their door every month and say, I want my $2.78. And many of them were really good at giving it to you, right? So what was that? That was the beginning of accounts receivables, right? I had accounts receivables out there. I had to go out and collect, right? So that was accounts receivable. So I would go out every month and I would collect the money from these people. Now there was Mr. Smith. He was an interesting individual because you have to have one difficult customer in every business you do. Some customer who just wants to say, this is the way I'm going to do it. If you want to do business with me, this is the way it's going to be, right? So one day, I would go every day, every month, Mr. Smith, I'm here to collect my money, $2.78. This guy would want to negotiate with me. I don't want to pay $2.78 for the paper. Well, Mr. Smith, why should I? Well, because, Mr. Smith, I've faithfully delivered this paper, rain and shine, for the last 30 days, and it didn't make a difference, but that's what I did. And you owe me the money. And he'd say, okay, fine. So then he'd go into his house, come back and write me a check for $2.78. I'm 12 years old. I don't have a bank account. I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? So I collected like 6 months worth of these checks. And my mom said, it's time for you to get a bank account. Which is funny because I tried to do that with my daughter recently. I can't do that now because of the environment we live in now. But then, my parents opened up a bank account for me. So I could deposit the checks And so now I get banking. Now I get introduced to banking and how banking works, right? Well, so the interesting thing about Mr. Smith too is I come down this steep hill and I have to make this real hard left turn. And I go onto this one street called Fletcher Drive, and it wasn't paved back in the late 70s. And so I would have to come around that corner real steep with my bike with 40 pounds of papers on either side of me, and then a real steep turn and straighten my bike up as quick as possible so that I was going straight into that gravel so that I wouldn't go in leaning and just skid out and wipe out. And he was the first house on the left, right? So I'd have to come in, straighten my bike up, take my paper, throw it, and of course he had 20 yards of juniper bushes, 20-yard driveway, 30-yard of juniper bushes. I had to let it go 20 yards out in front of the juniper, let it float, hit the driveway, and land, right? So now what are you learning about business? You're learning about, hey, accuracy counts, right? If you're not accurate, you're not going to get paid, you're not going to deliver something, right? So I did it every day. Well, of course, he used to have this little dog that would come out every day, at least 2 or 3 times a week, and run at my ankles. I'm just like, okay, well now I'm learning how to work under pressure, right? Because I'm kicking this thing off and it's chewing on my leg, and I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm throwing the paper. One day, I went and talked to this guy for 6 months. Mr. Smith, please, between the hours of 3 and 5, I'm delivering the paper, please, put your dog away, please. I mean, he didn't care. So one day I come around that corner, and of course I have another one right here, another house. So I pull this one out, I snap it up, I pull it out, I throw this way. I go to throw this way, I look, and he came out of the bushes, I didn't see him. And I'm like, whoa, and I try and swerve, and he got my foot, and I missed him, I kicked him. And the next thing I know, he got himself caught between my fork and my bike and my wheel. And I heard this horrific crack and this yelp, and I went, oh my, next thing I know, I'm flying, and I am back there in the last row on a gravel road, just bloody, and I'm thinking, oh my God, and I'm 12 years old, I'm crying, and I don't know what to do, I'm bloody everywhere, I'm going, I look at him, he's not moving, I go to Mr. Smith's door, I knock on the door, comes out, sure enough, the dog is dead. It's horrible, I felt horrible, he felt horrible, then he got mad at me, I had to go finish my route. So what did I learn there? Commitment. Commitment is doing something long after you don't want to do it anymore. Right? I mean, that's owning the business, right? TC, we only work half a day, right? Oh, yeah. It's the first 12 or the second 12. Which 12 you want to work? Right, Mrs. Worley? It's only half a day. But so, in any event, I went home, I'm crying, finished my paper out, talked to my dad, and he goes, I'm really sorry, son. Yeah. Month ends comes, I go down, Mr. Smith, I'd like to get my money. I'm really sorry about your dog. I'm not paying you. Why? Because you killed my dog. Look, Mr. Smith, we had a discussion about this. And he goes, I don't care. Get off my property. So I cry and I go home and tell my dad. And he goes, come on, let's go. And I go, I got a collections department now. So we go down and my dad knocks on the door. Mr. Smith, you need to pay my son. It's $2.78. Your son killed my dog. My son has told you for 6 months not to put your dog out there during those hours. This was a tragic event that could have been avoided had you just listened. And he goes, well, I'm not doing it. And my dad goes, he drops the F-bomb. And that's the first time I ever heard him drop that in my entire life. And I'm like, he goes, yes, you effing are going to pay him, and we're going to sit right here until you do. And so Mr. Smith goes in, he comes out with all these nickels and pennies and dimes and throws it in my dad's hand. And my dad gives it to me and goes, I don't know if I want to do, business with you anymore. And my dad's all, that's not up to me. I'm not the owner of this business. My son's the owner of this business. What do you want to do, John? And I go, I don't think I want to deliver the paper to this guy anymore. I turn around and walk away. One of the hardest things you have to learn as an entrepreneur is when to say, enough is enough. I quit. I'm not working with this individual anymore, right? And it is a hard thing to do because it was also touched upon earlier today that customer service is everything, especially in today's world where the consumer has so much power. It's like the customer service has to be there, and you wanted it to be there. And it goes back to being a leader, right? A leader with a heart that a servant's heart. You have to be there, right? You have to be there all the time for everything, even your employees, right? As TC was saying earlier, it's like herding cats. It's also like babysitting adults sometimes. But we do it. Why do we do it? I don't know why we do it. It's an interesting aspect. We love it, I guess, is why we do it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I do own Chill Out. It's a wonderful place. I do music on the Sunday afternoons, so Sunday mornings from 11 to 1, acoustical set Sundays. It's awesome during the weather. I reach out to every community event I can possibly do with regards to school because I love helping any school they can. Just like TC was saying, anytime you can help a school raise money for music, or for sports, or anything like that within reach, it's just an awesome feeling, and it's really great. Later on in life, I decided, well, hey, my dad would always tell me, hey, don't always put all your eggs in one basket. Don't always put eggs in one basket. All right, Dad, whatever the heck that means. I don't get it. I'm cracking eggs, but whatever. So I went and got a job at a deli. And so I worked in the deli, but I told the deli guy, hey, I can't work past 2 o'clock because I have a paper route. He goes, well, why do you want 2 jobs? I said, well, my dad said I can't put all my eggs in one basket. And he just looks at me. Really? I'm like 14 now. I'm like, well, that's what he told me. And he goes, okay. So he gave me a job, and I was working, making sandwiches and cutting stuff. And it was the beginning of a lot of. It was the beginning of who I am, and I think that's what I enjoy about being an entrepreneur. And then as I get older and I own businesses, I don't just own Chill Out, I own other ones, but Chill Out is close to my heart. I also do vacation property management, and I own ATMs and do that. But it's about giving back to the community, and it's about giving jobs to people, to young people coming up and other people, and helping the community grow, and helping people be able to put food on their table for their family and their kids, and watching that and getting involved with their lives. And there was so much more to it that I never even realized for a minute that my dad was trying to teach me. He was my mentor. And he passed away May 10th of 2010. And it was tough. I was like rudderless for like a year. I didn't have anybody to work with. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I bounced things off my wife, who's my rock and who's just wonderful. But the questions I asked were out of her realm. They were more, financial and this and that. It's wonderful on big pictures, wonderful and things like that. But when it gets down to financials, it's like, that is my strength. But it was also great to have an accountant as a father. So it's an interesting conundrum what you said to me, because I've been asked that so many times at cocktail parties. What drives you? Why are you an entrepreneur? Conversation with just wine and this and that. But I thank you, because you really made me think about it for the last 2 weeks. What drives me is being in a wonderful community such as this, and just helping out the people that are here. And being in front of people like you. So anyway, I'm sure my 6 minutes are up. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John.